With training and proper equipment, a designated sharpshooter could reach easily 2 or 3 times further out as I could with my AR, and often much further without issue. Having 2 or 3 of them in a squad is absolutely amazing. Back in the older wars, everyone had a rifle like that, but it ended up being too expensive and heavy, both the rifle and the ammo, along with the limited capacity. It was coming back around, though, with at least one per squad being a very welcome addition. I stopped thinking about the old rifle argument and finished going to the bathroom and having been lost in thought, flushed without thinking due to muscle memory. The toilet flushed, of course, then I remembered that the water worked through mechanics and pressure. It still startled me a little bit as I heard systems throughout the whole ship starting to work. I felt like a total idiot, then stopped worrying because I wasn't really trying to hide. I went ahead and washed my hands as well, and grabbed a wash rag and washed my face. That made me feel a million times better than I was sure I wasn't going to wake up with my eyes burning from sweat. With that, it was time to go to sleep and hopefully get some rest for trying to figure out what I was going to do with my counterpart on the ship in the morning. I set my alarm on my phone for 6 hours. That would have me up before dawn, playing my favorite music tracks. I got my battery pack gear out of my backpack, then set my backpack on the floor. I hooked it up to my battery pack solar charger combo, so having my alarm on all night that wouldn't drain the battery. I pressed the button on my battery pack solar charger combo and made sure they synced up and were happy. Checked the volume on the software side to make sure it was on. Everything was good to go. I set all of that aside on the nightstand and closed my eyes and began to doze off in full kit. I slept in full kit all the time. It's so comfortable I don't even notice. I got most of my nightly prayers off before I was out cold. It revolved around asking that everyone please be safe, being thankful that everything was as relatively okay as possible, and hoping that everything could be going okay as was appropriate. My night of sleeping seemed to be okay until the final third round of the night when I started to dream. I was in a corridor I didn't fully recognize. It had a very evil sense to it, very foreboding. I was not welcome there at all. A child, a boy no older than 5, had been stalking me down the halls. He had wooden dowels about 5 millimeters wide that were circular, shoved through his face in all different directions. What made the situation even more unsettling wasn't just that he was reaching out for me, but that he was doing so with a teddy bear in his hand. This teddy bear also had matching wooden dowels through him. This horrible dark world didn't go away, and there seemed to be no solution to it. The child seemed inherently dangerous, and I couldn't understand why. This wasn't normal for a dream for me at all, and I took another wooden dowel and shoved it through his head, hoping to stop him to end the threat. It did not end the threat at all, and he kept coming. I started yelling, but I wasn't sure if I was yelling in the dream or real life or both. Either way, it wasn't waking me up, so I gave up. I eventually was able to lure him to an open elevator shaft, however, and then kicked him down it. This ended the dream, and I woke up with a start. Except I realized immediately that I wasn't in the ship at all. I was still in my room a year earlier. I had woken up into a second dream. So the method I had already tried, which was trying to will myself to yell, hadn't worked, and had only gotten me into this dream. I tried a second method to wake myself up, which was to twirl my arms around in a circular pattern. I knew if I could reach the other side of my brain, it would wake me up usually. It was funny how ridiculously aware of everything I was when I was sleeping. That could backfire on me, though, as sometimes I had dreams about my arms twirling uncontrollably, which was very unsettling. I even felt my arms moving sometimes, but rarely woke up flailing. It's how I could tell it was a dream, because I knew if I was yelling but I couldn't hear, then I wasn't really awake, or if I twirled my arms but they weren't really moving. You get the idea. Even when I'm asleep, I'm aware enough to be able to tell the difference. So I start trying to twirl my arms around and notice they aren't moving, and it's starting to wake me up in this second dream within a dream, and then I hear a scratching at the door. Chapter 14, Time to Wake Up. Pre-dawn, day 2. What a rough night, I think to myself. I got up in the dark without thinking and without my glasses on and stumbled to the door to let the cat in. I go and sit back down on the bed, and the cat hops up on the bed next to me after doing a swipe around my leg. I give the cat a pat on the head and flick my chest-mounted light on. The room looked weird, so I blinked a few times and squinted. That's when I realized, for the morning, that I'm in a bed in the 1950s. Why am I in a bed in the 1950s? I ask the cat. The cat looks at me like I'm an idiot, and I put my glasses on and look around. And before I can really gather what's going on, the radio turns on by itself. I run over to the radio and try to turn it off, and I do. Well, I technically shut it off. I turn the knob to the off position, but the radio is still on. I follow the cord to the electrical outlet. The radio's still on. I unplug the radio's still on. The radio keeps going. Just then, the alarm starts going off on the ship. Without really thinking, I run out into the hallway to see what the alarm's about, due to so much past trauma of false smoke alarms waking me up in the middle of the night when I was younger. But just then, the cabin door inexplicably slams closed and the electronics lock behind me. Well played, I thought to myself, the prior hours to my nap coming back to me all at once. I stood outside the room for a minute and thought to myself, I'd been outplayed by the guy that lived here. This was his domain. He was extremely patient and calculating. It only took a few slip-ups and he'd already separated me from half my gear. I still had my sidearm backup and some of my knives, a few pieces of jerky and my radio, but that's about it. I checked my pockets and everything was still there. Thankfully, I had my glasses on. I checked my comm and it was still good, of course. I stared at the door and it now said occupied where it had said unoccupied earlier. There had been tags inside for if they wanted room service or not, and then I heard something from inside the door. Something was smacking and clawing the inside of the door. I started seeing the red occupied move and flutter. This went on for a minute or so, and I was really intrigued as I had a feeling with a grin on my face as to what was going on. The flag switched to unoccupied, and then the door opened, with the cat defiantly shoving it open with a humph. I grabbed the door before it could close, as the cat had opened it a few inches. I rushed in so I could grab my stuff. The cat did not follow me back in. I scooped all of my belongings back up. I saw my phone, which the alarm was now going off, and my battery pack, my beloved AR, and my backpack with the rest of my supplies. I calmed my phone down and put it away, and put my battery pack away. Put my backpack back on, and put my AR back over me where it was supposed to be, and then out I went. The cat was outside dutifully waiting for me. I set down tiny strips of jerky and hydrated the jerky a bit with some water. Then the cat started taking tiny bits of the jerky, stepping away and gobbling it down with a cat grin. With my offering of thanks provided, I set off to hopefully make amends with the guy who had played his little trick on me. Hopefully he wasn't even more scared now than he was before. The cat must have finished its jerky and was now following me. Wait, I thought to myself, where did the cat come from? I was so used to having cats around, I even never thought about it twice when one popped up. I hadn't seen this cat before. You'd think I would have seen it, or some signs of there being cat food or cat litter. I decided to go check the kitchen and the pantry one more time, to see if there was some cat food to feed the cat, also to see what the overall food stores were like, to take inventory. I went out of the cabins with the cat dutifully at my heels, and down the stairs to the first floor we went. The cat went behind the stairs for a moment, which I thought was weird, but I didn't think too much of it. I was focused on going to the kitchen. I rummaged around in the extensive kitchen pantry and discovered no cat food. There was a cat here, and no cat food, and no litter box. I see, I said to the cat, this is your ship. The cat looked at me like, no duh, you're slow. Yeah, I know, I said back to the cat. A thought formed in my head. He must have come from where my counterpart on the ship was hiding. He must have wanted to come out at some point, and you scurried away to check the situation out for yourself, being the big bad boss of the ship and all this being your territory. Well, here I am, Mr. Kitty, and don't let me assume your gender. You look like you used to be a mister. The cat looked at me rudely, then rolled its eyes as if to say that was an issue that he'd long since put to rest. Well, cat, let's go try to introduce me to your buddy, huh? The cat seemed like this was well overdue. I followed the cat back to where he was probably trying to show me before. Much to my convenience, the cat led me right to where I needed to go, and I realized in the grand stair hall that there was a concealed door developed into the side of the stairwell. It looked exactly like part of the design. I was very impressed.